Donald Trump just dropped a political bombshell that's got the anti-gun crowd fired up. He's now calling for nationwide concealed carry reciprocity. That's right, coast-to-coast recognition of concealed carry permits, no matter where they were issued. For millions of law-abiding gun owners across America, this isn't just some campaign promise. It's a direct challenge to state-level overreach that's been punishing responsible citizens for simply exercising their constitutional right to keep and bear arms. In this breakdown, we're going to drill down into exactly what Trump's plan lays out, what it means for Americans who value the Second Amendment, and why this might be the biggest move for gun rights we've seen in an entire generation. We'll unpack his statements, shut down the usual anti-gun talking points, and explain why this could be a game-changer in the fight for our right to carry. The problem with current laws. For a country that prides itself on liberty, it's downright ridiculous how law-abiding gun owners get tangled up in a web of confusing state-by-state regulations when it comes to carrying concealed. The way the laws are structured right now, someone who's fully legal and licensed in their home state can instantly become a felon just by crossing into another state. Think about that. Imagine if your driver's license stopped working the second you crossed a state line. It sounds insane. But that's exactly the legal trap concealed carriers face every single day. Each state enforces its own set of carry laws, often with zero reciprocity, creating a legal minefield that's nearly impossible to navigate unless you've done extensive legal homework beforehand. This patchwork of laws doesn't just frustrate people, it puts good, law-abiding Americans at real legal risk. Take the case of Shainene Allen from Pennsylvania. She was a working single mom, legally carrying under a valid concealed carry permit issued in her home state. But back in 2013, she got pulled over in New Jersey and was arrested simply for having her legally owned handgun. She didn't realize her permit wasn't recognized across state lines. For that, she was facing up to 10 years behind bars. She was eventually pardoned, but the entire ordeal flipped her life upside down. Then there's the case of Marine veteran Sergeant Andrew Tamaresi. In 2014, he accidentally crossed from Arizona into Mexico with his legally owned firearms in the back of his truck. Despite his honorable military service, he sat in a Mexican prison for 7 months before being released. These aren't rare flukes. They're part of a much bigger problem, where honest, law-abiding citizens are treated like criminals because of the complete lack of consistent concealed carry laws nationwide. The Second Amendment clearly states that the right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. But when that right evaporates the moment you cross a state border, it's hard to argue that the right even exists in any meaningful way. States like California and New York have stacked so many restrictions on top of one another that the Second Amendment gets treated more like a loose suggestion instead of the law of the land. And until something changes, responsible gun owners will keep getting caught in the middle of this legal mess. Trump's proposal for national reciprocity. Enter the idea of concealed carry reciprocity, the principle that if you're licensed to carry a concealed handgun in one state, that permit should be honored in all 50 states, just like your driver's license. This isn't some brand new concept either. Lawmakers have been pushing it through Congress for years in the form of legislation called the Concealed Carry Reciprocity Act. Back in 2017, the House of Representatives actually passed H.R. 38, a bill that would have amended Title 18 of the United States Code, requiring states to recognize concealed carry permits issued by any other state. While the bill made it through the House, it ultimately stalled out in the Senate and never reached the finish line. Even so, support for nationwide reciprocity has only gotten stronger. Supporters argue that it would cut through the legal red tape and confusion, making life far easier for law-abiding Americans who carry, while reinforcing the constitutional protection of the right to bear arms nationwide. Right now, The patchwork of conflicting state laws isn't just frustrating. It's flat-out unfair. Good, responsible people are getting tangled up in legal traps simply for exercising a fundamental right. Concealed carry reciprocity offers a solution, one that respects state authority, but fully honors the constitutional freedoms guaranteed to every American. President-elect Donald Trump has made it crystal clear. He's fully committed to making national reciprocity a reality. His plan would bring all 50 states into alignment, meaning that if you've got a concealed carry license from your home state, you'd be good to go no matter where you travel in the country. In a recent speech, Trump drove the point home. I will protect the right of self-defense everywhere it is under siege, and I will sign concealed carry reciprocity. Your Second Amendment does not end at the state line. That single statement sums up the problem perfectly. Your right to carry shouldn't disappear the moment you cross into another state. Trump doubled down with another powerful message. Just like your driver's license or your marriage license, your Second Amendment must apply across state lines. He's drawing a clear parallel between routine legal recognition and one of our most essential constitutional rights: benefits and counterarguments. Trump's push for nationwide concealed carry reciprocity is more than just a policy proposal. It's a direct response to the aggressive gun control agenda being pushed by the political left. He's standing firm for what millions of us recognize as an inalienable human right: the ability to protect ourselves and our loved ones, no matter where we are. The patchwork system we have right now has already caused far too many honest, law-abiding Americans to unknowingly break the law just by crossing into the wrong jurisdiction with their concealed handgun. That's not just a legal headache. It's a direct threat to personal liberty. What Trump is proposing would establish a uniform national system that respects both the Constitution and the needs of law-abiding gun owners. Advocates argue that this change wouldn't just reinforce the right to carry. It would serve as a deterrent to crime by ensuring more responsible armed citizens are ready to defend themselves and others when it matters most. The fight for nationwide concealed carry reciprocity isn't about convenience. It's about tearing down the legal barriers that have chipped away at our constitutional rights for far too long. The ultimate goal is simple: to restore the Second Amendment to its full intended strength. If this policy takes effect, law-abiding citizens who've gone through background checks, training, and licensing to obtain a concealed carry permit will finally be able to travel freely across state lines, without constantly worrying about violating obscure, conflicting state laws. Whether it's a family taking a cross-country vacation, someone relocating for a new job, or just an everyday American out for a weekend trip, this policy ensures that their right to self-defense travels with them. Supporters of national reciprocity also point out a painful truth. Criminals are already enjoying a form of reciprocity, exploiting the messy patchwork of state-level gun laws to slip through the cracks, while law-abiding citizens jump through hoops to stay compliant. Bad actors operate freely in the shadows, taking full advantage of loopholes and inconsistencies. A perfect example is the so-called Iron Pipeline along Interstate 95, where firearms are illegally trafficked from states with looser regulations into heavily restricted jurisdictions like New York and New Jersey. These criminals don't care about borders or regulations. They cross them without hesitation. And if those who break the law can move freely, it's only fair that those who follow the law should be granted that same freedom, backed by a legal framework that fully respects their right to defend themselves and their families. Let's not forget, concealed carry permit holders go through extensive background checks, mandatory training, and strict licensing requirements. Statistically, they are among the most law-abiding segments of the entire population. Of course, even with growing public support, the road ahead won't be without resistance. Opponents of national reciprocity are already gearing up for a fight, raising concerns about public safety and state sovereignty. One of their most common talking points is the claim that more legal concealed carriers would somehow lead to higher crime rates. But the facts simply don't support that narrative. Research from the Crime Prevention Research Center paints a very different picture. Concealed carry holders aren't just responsible. In many cases, their crime rates are even lower than those of law enforcement officers. In states like Texas and Florida, concealed carry permit holders have been convicted of crimes at rates several times lower than police officers themselves. And real-world examples back that up. Look at what happened in Portland, Oregon in 2012, or in Sutherland Springs, Texas in 2017, where armed citizens helped stop active mass shooters. These are crystal-clear examples of how law-abiding Americans with firearms can and do protect themselves and others when it matters most. Another argument from critics is that implementing national reciprocity would violate states' rights. But under the full faith and credit clause of the Constitution, states already recognize things like driver's licenses and marriage certificates issued by other states. Extending that same principle to concealed carry permits isn't government overreach. It's simply a logical and constitutional next step that still respects state governance while protecting fundamental rights. Then there's the undeniable hypocrisy. Many of the same anti-gun politicians and celebrities who preach strict gun control are constantly surrounded by private armed security. That double standard is hard to ignore. It sends a dangerous message that self-defense is a privilege reserved for the elite, while ordinary Americans are expected to go without. National concealed carry reciprocity stands in stark contrast to that elitist mindset. This isn't just another policy debate. This is a clear declaration that the right to defend yourself should never depend on your zip code or your income level. Momentum is building fast. Right now is the moment for every American who supports the Second Amendment to step up and take action. We need to rally together. Call your representatives. Join organizations like the USCCA, the United States Concealed Carry Association. Show up at town halls, sign petitions, and make your voice heard online. The fight for our rights isn't some theoretical debate. It's happening right now. And while we're fighting to defend freedom, the anti-gun lobby is working non-stop to restrict what we can own, where we can carry, and how we can protect ourselves and our families. Staying informed, backing candidates who support the Constitution, and holding our elected officials accountable. Those are the essential steps every single one of us must take. The Second Amendment isn't just some line buried in an old document. It is the bedrock of American liberty. And with unity and strong leadership, national reciprocity can become reality. And when that day comes, we send a loud, crystal-clear message to Washington, to the politicians, and to every single anti-gun lobbyist out there. Our rights are not up for negotiation.